George and Stacy had been married for 6 years. You know how folks say opposites attract? Well, these two were proof. Stacy was fire, quick-tempered, full of spark, while George was laid back to the point of looking half asleep. Still, none of George's calm could keep Stacy from being jealous of practically everything that moved. For the life of him, George couldn't figure out why. He was home on time every night. If he did have to stay late, he shot her a text first. No secrets, no half-truths. He just told it straight and expected the same in return. But Stacy never explained her wild jealousy. Maybe she was just wired that way, born a little too possessive. George had been hinting for a while that it might be time for a baby. Stacy, though, always dodged the talk. Part of him got it. She loved her freedom and didn't want to spend a whole year stuck at home changing diapers. But still, 6 years is 6 years. The house was paid off. The jobs were steady. Why not grow the family? While George daydreamed about strollers and midnight feedings, Stacy's mind was somewhere else entirely, and she sure wasn't sharing the details. She started working late more and more. Sometimes she didn't even bother to warn him. At first, George asked nothing, then decided not to make a fuss. He trusted her like he trusted himself. That trust cracked one night after dinner. Out of nowhere, Stacy said she'd be heading to her folks' place for a few days. They needed a hand with some things, and besides, it had been forever since she'd seen them. "How about I tag along?" George offered, slipping an arm around her. Could use a mini vacation. She stiffened just a little and stepped back. "I'd rather go alone," she said, keeping her voice even. It stung. He pressed the idea, said he'd take a couple personal days, but her mind was made up. So he let her go, figuring a little solo time might clear her head. The next evening, with Stacy already out of town, George swung by the grocery store. He was eyeing steaks when something bright caught his eye. And there, pushing an overloaded cart, was Katie, Stacy's longtime friend. She looked frazzled, lugging enough food for an army. George called her name. She blushed and rolled over. Small. Talk started. Katie assumed Stacy was somewhere in the store. But when George said she'd gone to her parents', Katie's face fell. "She left town," Katie echoed. "Funny, she never mentioned it to me." Her brows knit. A moment later, a light bulb went off and she stared at George. "You busy tonight? There's a coffee spot around the corner." He glanced at her cart. "Where's Leo?" "Thought he'd be helping. Leo's not around," she muttered, eyes clouding. "Could you maybe give me a hand with these bags?" "Sure," George laughed. "Can't leave you wrestling all that alone." He drove her home and hauled the groceries upstairs. In thanks, Katie insisted on tea. George wanted to decline but didn't want to be rude, so he stayed. She set out cookies and they chatted. After a while, Katie slid closer, flirting a bit, though her eyes still carried a heavy sadness. George pretended not to notice. Cheating wasn't on his bucket list, no matter how cute Katie was. But when her shaky hand landed on his knee, he drew the line. "Katie, I'm married. You're married, let's not be dumb." His serious tone snapped her back. She covered her face and started to sob. George, floored, awkwardly patted her shoulder. She flinched. Hard to believe she'd been flirting seconds ago. "I'm sorry," she sniffed. "I just wanted to get back at Stacy." "What do you mean, get back?" George asked, totally lost. "You really don't know? Your wife's sleeping with my husband. Right. Now they're off somewhere together, feeding us a pack of lies." George stared as if she'd grown horns. "What kind of nonsense is that?" He shot to his feet, chair scraping. "Why didn't she want you on the trip? When's the last time she even visited her parents?" Katie shot back. The words hit like a live wire. Doubts George had buried came roaring up. Anger flared, rare for him. but he needed proof first. "You sure about this?" he asked. "If you still don't believe me, fine. Call her. I'll call Leo right after. He never silences his phone. Let's see if they're side by side." Heart pounding, George dialed. Blood hammered in his ears. Every ring felt like a mile. Stacy picked up, calm as can be, quiet in the background. "Hey, hun, you home?" George asked. "Yeah, I'm at Mom and Dad's," she replied, wary. "Everything okay?" He asked about her day, her folks. Then he signaled Katie, who rang Leo. From George's phone, speaker came Leo's ringtone. Then it went dead. He declined, Katie whispered. "Enjoy your little getaway with Leo," George said into the phone and hung up. Katie's look said, "Told you so." George's voice turned cold. "This place yours together?" "It belongs to Leo's mom," she mumbled. "Grab a bag. We're heading to my place," he said, eyes steely. "Let's play the jealousy game your way." Exactly as he predicted, Stacy rang nonstop at first, trying to clear up the misunderstanding. The next day, she barreled back home. George stood in the doorway blocking her. "Move, George. Let me in. You're being ridiculous. I told you where." "I was!" she snapped. Just then, a woman in a short silk robe drifted behind him, purring. "Coffee's ready, babe." Stacy's jaw dropped. Katie? And in that get-up, the lifelong queen of jealousy went nuclear. She unleashed a string of curse words that would singe paint. George only smirked, warned her to back away from his apartment, and shut the door in her face. 2 days later, he boxed up all Stacy's things and shipped them straight to Leo's place. Meanwhile, he and Katie grew closer, surprisingly well-matched, and moved in together while both couples filed for divorce. Stacy moved in with Leo, but she never stopped raging over George and Katie's payback, especially because the two actually turned out happy together. Her fury morphed into jealousy toward Leo. She grilled him whenever he stayed at work a bit late. That only made him linger out even longer. Fight after fight, the spark fizzled. Eventually, Leo walked, and Stacy was left alone again. Plenty of time to find her next target, and that's the story. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Whose side? Are you on? Thanks for sticking around till the end, and if you enjoyed it, hit that subscribe button for more epic cheating tales. See y'all next time.